This is my son's Mazda 3, and it threw a rod. So I picked up an engine at the junkyard, and I'm in the process of changing it out. So it is cold outside, so I'm inside my garage. Don't have a lot of room in here, but as you can see, I've got this engine out. It's hanging here, and I've got the new engine from the junkyard sitting here that we will be swapping some stuff over and trying to get that installed. While I'm at it, looks like I'm gonna go ahead and replace the lower ball joints, struts, and all of that kind of motor mounts, all that kind of good stuff, so we don't have to mess with this for a while. Anyway, engine combo torn apart. I have the transmission sitting off to the side here. It's a little dark, so you'll see. I've got all this spaghetti mess here of hoses and wires that I didn't want to take apart, but I had to separate the transmission from the engine. There's the old engine there, and I have the new one waiting there. But before remarrying those, I wanted to go ahead and change the front pump seal for the torque converter, just to make sure I don't have any leaks when we go back together or in the future. So yeah, typically those start to leak after a while. This one was just starting to get some crusty stuff around it, so I imagine it was going to start leaking at some point. Anyway, I guess the next step is to get some seals on it. I'm going to put a front pump seal on it, and I'm going to go ahead and also replace the two axle shaft seals while I'm at it. One is right there on this side, and the other one, of course, is going to be on the back side here. We want to do that because, again, we want to make sure when we put all this back together that we don't have any leaks. It doesn't look to have had any leaks, but again, these things have over 230,000 miles on them, so I imagine it won't be long before they start leaking, so I don't want to have any issues with those. We're going to go ahead and change them out while we're here. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll continue with the reassembly of the two together. I got the transmission back onto the back of the new engine. So I got that assembled, everything connected. We got our alternator back on this engine. We've got our starter connected. We've swapped out the throttle or the airflow sensor and the throttle body there. We got everything connected up here. All our sensors. We got our fuel injectors connected. And so, yeah, we got this thing just, excuse me, I'm still sick a little bit. But yeah, we got this all ready to go back into the car. So that's going to be the next step, and we'll go ahead and try and get that into the car tomorrow. It is a late night, so I'm going to try and get some rest so I can get up and get over to the office in the morning. That's going to be it for tonight. Way we can get the engine back into the car tomorrow, and then we can start working on the new suspension. I did get my parts in, so we can go ahead and get the new struts on and the lower ball joints, and get all that put back together once we get our engine back in there. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so before we go ahead and install this engine back in the car, I wanted to go ahead and pull the spark plugs while it's easier here on the floor to get to them, and take a look in there, and also maybe put some new plugs in it and what have you, so that when we get the engine into the car, I don't have to be reaching in there to take a look down in the cylinders. So we'll take a look and see what the plugs look like, and go ahead and get some new spark plugs in there, and then we'll proceed from there. So let me pull those plugs out and we'll see how far we get. And I don't know if I should leave this recording. Maybe I can do this and try and get this phone to keep recording there. You should be able to continue to hear me talk, and we'll see. Sorry about that. I lost my phone. Looking for a little ratchet. And we'll just come in here and see what we've got going on here. Let's see if we can work with one hand. We've got to pull these little screws that hold these coils on. We'll go ahead and remove these. Okay, and so just go ahead and take these out. Set them aside. Set them down here. And we'll start by pulling out these coils. They came out real easy, so I don't know. That one looks like it's got some oil down in there, which is not good, because that indicates it might have a leak on the valve cover. Stick my finger down in here and see if I can tell if there's a leak, and then let me go over here and see if I can find a socket that'll fit down in there. Remember if this is it or not. Okay, so let me pull the spark plugs out, and then we'll take a look at them. Okay, so I pulled the spark plugs out, and you can see the plugs themselves don't look too bad. I mean, they do have a little wear on them. It looks like they've been in there for a while. They don't look too bad as far as the way they're burning. But what I did notice, when you look down in the cylinder there, let me see if I can get it to where you can see. You can actually see, there you go, you can actually see some oil has been running down from the valve cover into where the spark plug welds are, especially this one right here. So one thing I noticed that the spark plugs came in like they were starting to seize up, or did seize up on the head. So what I'm going to go ahead and do before I go ahead and put this back into the car, I know this is leaking, so I'm going to go ahead and get a valve cover gasket on it. I had already purchased one for the other car, but I didn't put it in because I knew I was going to change the engine out. So I'm going to go ahead and change out the valve cover gasket on this. The other thing I noticed is down in the cylinder, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see down in there that far, but there's a little bit of carbon buildup inside on top of the pistons. So what that tells me is that I may have to run some stuff to get that carbon off of there once we get this engine running. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and remove the valve cover and go ahead and try and get a new valve cover gasket on it before we move forward with this while I have this out. Well, we've got the valve cover off, and as you can see, the ones that had a little more oil in them were the two in the middle here, the two spark plugs there in the middle. I went ahead and put them back in so that we didn't get any dirt down in the cylinders while we were changing this gasket out. So that tells me that the gasket that's leaking is the one that's right around these two spark plugs here. This one had a little bit, not much, so that one's probably okay. And then we have the one around here and the overall gasket that goes around everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and change those gaskets out, get this valve cover back on, and then we can proceed to stick this engine back in the car. Well, we've got the valve cover back on here. But the one thing to keep in mind is that when you have a lot of screws like these do, they need to be torqued in a certain sequence in order to ensure that the gasket squishes accordingly so that you don't develop any leaks. Another important thing to keep in mind is that you need to ensure that you use the right torque specs, because if you over tighten the gasket, it'll squish out and eventually it'll start to leak. So I've taken and brought out my inch-pound torque wrench. The specs for this are between 72 and 91 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. And so we want to ensure that we don't over-tighten these and that we tighten them in a sequence. Now the way we're going to tighten these is we're going to start with number 1 here, then 2, then we're going to go, that's 2, and then 3 on that side, 4 on this side, 5, 6, then we're going to go, 5, 6, and then we're going to go 7, 8, then we're going to go 9, 10, 11, and then we're going to come back to this side, 12, 13, and 14. And that way we can ensure that the cover goes down the way it was designed to be squished down and to the right torque specifications. That way, those leaks that we had in the middle, hopefully they will last for another 150,000 miles before this needs to be changed again. So let me go ahead and do that and put this back together so that we can get started to put this motor in the car. What I did do is I took those coils from the other engine because they're newer and they seem to be in better shape. So I went ahead and put those on here to ensure, and they were working. So I just want to have as little bit to do with this thing not functioning the way it needs to once I get it into the car. So the less problems I have with that, the better off we'll be. So I don't know, the others are probably still good, but I just figured, I know these were working and they're newer than the ones that I took off. So it looks like we're pretty much ready now to go ahead and get the cherry picker on this thing and get it into the car. So I guess that's where we'll go from here. So maybe we'll take another little bit whenever we get it hanging down in there, so you can see me get the motor mounts on this. I did take off the back motor mounts, including the bracket that goes here, so that it wouldn't be, which is typically I think how they take them out. But due to the space constraints here and having a way of dragging this out from under the car, it was just easier for me to pull it out the top. So now we'll see if we can get it back in there without any issues. We'll check on it then. Well, I think this video is getting kind of long, so I guess we're gonna end it here, and then I'll put together the other videos and go ahead and upload those as another video to put together the engine going back in, and also to test drive, or actually see if it works, and then go ahead and test drive the vehicle, and also you guys can see that in the next video. So if you like the content, please subscribe, hit the bell, give it a like, whatever. This is my first YouTube video, so I am trying to see if this is going to work out. There's some friends that asked me to do this, so you know, as we go on, I'm going to try and get better on the videos, and maybe down the road I'll start getting somebody to help me record instead of only recording steps after I perform them, and hopefully that'll be better down the road. So I hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you later. Sorry for not putting my face on this part, but I didn't have a video to go with it, so I'm just adding this recording. Thank you for watching. Bye.